Am I live? Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. I understand the plenary went a little bit late, so I think people are still trickling in. So we're starting just a couple minutes early, and then we'll get the speakers going. And this is really exciting. So here at Startup City, over the course of the next few hours, I'm going to introduce 18 different people representing 16 companies. So it's a really great opportunity to see some of the democratization of AI, right? So we know especially as open source is really growing, cloud computing, there's a much, much lower barrier to individuals making real applications of AI within different sectors. So we're really excited to see the energy that's poured into these startups and the innovation that they're bringing to a lot of different fields. We've got companies from all over the globe here this afternoon. They've only got 7 minutes to present and 3 minutes for question and answer, so it's going to be really concise. Which means they'll get to the point really quickly, so that's great. By way of introduction, my name is David Stevenson. I'm actually based here in Amsterdam from the US. I'm part-time lecturer at the Amsterdam Business School. Most of my time I do consulting for data strategy. Also wrote a few books, which you may find on Amazon. So I'm really glad to be with you here hosting this event. Without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our first speaker, Jean-Philippe from hold on, let me make sure I get this right. AxonJ, joining us from the Bruges area. Welcome, Jean-Philippe.
Hi everyone, bonjour. Je suis Jean-Philippe. I'm half Dutch and half Belgian, so that's a big advantage. And we started a little company a year ago, post-COVID company called AxonJ. So I have 7 minutes, so I will go very fast. AxonJ, as you all know, I'm also how do I have to say, an ornithologist, so all my company's names have bird names. So AxonJ is a company that has built a trailblazing self-machine learning platform. So we are the inventors of the self-machine learning platform, where, as David said, we are democratizing AI. So we're giving back the power of AI to the business owner. We say the data scientist is not playing God anymore. So that's something new, that's something refreshing, and therefore we have a platform that is called a self-machine learning platform. We have a tribe, so we're 15 people already, and we work from all across Europe. Once a month, a week, we co-live together in Brussels, in the Galerie du Roi, and there we work together for 1 week, and then we go back to Ljubljana, Amsterdam, London, Madrid, Copenhagen, etc. So this is also a new concept. Also, what we're doing, very simple, we are working in several fields on the platform, and basically, and I will explain that in a minute, we are solving a couple of challenges. So we predict which company is going to hire. We predict which company is going to fire. We predict which private fund, and we'll talk a little bit about the private funds in a minute, is going to open, is going to close. So basically what we're doing is we're looking at the true behavior of companies. This true behavior is based on data, of course, but those data are translated in signals. The cocktail of signals is defined by the market, and when you get result out of this cocktail, you have a feedback loop that is coming from the business. And this feedback loop is straight altering the algorithms and the models. So this way, this process is fully automated. You can have those products evolving. So your neighbor might have the same solution as you, working in the same market, but because of the different feedback, he will get a different solution at the end. So let's go into that. So in the finance solution, we have several solutions. We don't have time to talk about everything, but we're going to pick out the private funds prediction. So how we will change the world of private funds. So you all know what a private equity is. So not a public one, a private, and there are 55, more or less, 60, between 50 and 60,000 private funds globally. And all the power today sits in the investor's manager, in his head. So what we're trying to do is what is going on in his head, put in a model, put on a platform. So that means that you have a life cycle of a fund. And we are going, like I said, to reveal the true behavior of that fund. And how do we do that? Because that fund is giving signals online. And that's the big difference. It's like in a relationship. You can say you do this, but what is your true behavior? It's the signals that you're giving, it's the things that you're doing. And that's exactly what we see. So it's the same for recruitment, like I said a minute ago. So you see the evolution of a fund, and it has a cycle. And of course, if there are 60,000 funds and you're a private investor, you can't follow them all. It's too much data. It's too much versatile, and it's changing every minute. So it's very important to know in which state it is. And it's like I said, it's all in the head of the investor. And for the investment fund or for the family office where the investors manager is working, or the private bank, it's like when he gets a bigger Ferrari from the competition, he's gone to the competition and all the know-how is gone. All right, so this is the platform. You can click on the apps, and here you just saw the life cycle of a minute ago, and the platform will tell you where the cycle is, at what state, and it will say where did it come from. So first identification, that, etc., etc. Start calling for capital, that will be revealed, and you see there's a lots of information. So the platform is not a black box like most of AI is. It's not a white box because we still have some IP and some trademarks, but it's a gray box. So that means it will tell you why, based on which signals, it reveals or it predicts this, this behavior. So that means also that you'll see, for instance, expected end date, expected closing, expecting opening, and based on the signals. I'll give you some examples of signals. In general, change of supplier, change of CEO, I don't know, more social media activity, more in the press, etc., etc. But it's never one signal that changes the world. It's the cocktail. And it's the business who is defining the cocktail through the feedback. And you see the feedback is very simple. It's like on Facebook. You like or you don't like. And this goes straight back. And this flow is completely automated. So this is the platform. This is the feedback you're getting. And basically, it's based on all the data. You can see it over here. It doesn't matter if it's structured data, public data, balance sheet data, depends on the countries, of course, but also social media data, we call it dynamic data, press data, etc., etc. And of course, like I said, the data scientist is not God. Who is he to decide? He's not a private fund investor, he's not a recruiter, etc., etc. So that's why we think the market should do that themselves. Finally, what is also very important is we're going more and more towards the sustainability. So are you really planting those trees? Are you really compensating this? You say you do that in your, I don't know, press releases on your website, but are there signals? And today, because of the data drift after post-COVID, having no data is also a signal. So this is very important on that level too. That's it. I'm within the 7 minutes. I try to do that very fast. And I think there are some questions, I guess. Huh?
Yeah, so now we have a couple minutes to take questions, and I believe we've got someone with a roaming mic. So if you'd like to ask a question, go ahead and raise your hand. And while we do that, I'll just ask you, Jean-Philippe, I understand you guys won an award in Budapest last year.
Last week, yeah.
Yeah, last week. Sorry, last week, yeah. Time goes fast, right? So go ahead.
Hello. I didn't quite understand what's the product. The product is the platform, and what's the IPR? Because I saw there are lots of actually products, and I don't understand what's the structure behind it. So
yes,
if I would be an investor, what I would invest in? I was not very clear.
Yes, so the base is the platform, the self-machine learning platform with a mechanism of fully automated feedback loops and gathering all the data, translating that into signals. And on top of that, we have apps, for instance, for recruiters, which predict which companies are going to hire or fire, or which reveals private funds, the behavior of private funds. These are separate products sitting on the platform.
Can I have a second question? Yeah. And how do you train this very unstructured and very heterogeneous data, which you call signals? It's
through the feedback.
you have like billions of likes on dislikes or something like. I mean,
we have a lot of likes and dislikes, and of course the models are trained by themselves by the data, the signals they're giving too. But if you want, I'll take that outside, and we're going to have a discussion about that. That's not a problem. Are there other questions?
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering what are the other applications besides recruitment and private funds? Like how easy is it for you to develop another use case?
Good question. We're currently looking into sustainability, like explained. So we want to reveal the true behavior of sustainability of companies.
Right.
So that means that, like you're publicizing an article, I just said it, you're planting 50,000 trees, but are you really working on your sustainability? So against greenwashing, but you could do the same for pinkwashing, you could do the same for lots of, so it's basically the basis, like revealing true behavior of companies. So it's a B2B solution for true behavior of companies.
So it can be anything pretty
It
much.
could be anything, but of course we're a startup, we need to focus, we have limited resources, we need to focus on a couple of products, of course. So, yeah.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question.
Yes, over here in the front.
You base your database in feedback, right? But now there is a lot of bots generating false data. How do you manage that?
How do you mean? Sorry, false data? Is that what you
Yeah,
say?
because you base on feedback, but now you can put a bot to do all the feedback that you want. How do you control that?
That's a good question, but like I said, it's based on data that it's translated into signals, and it's the cocktail of signals who is defining that. And then the customer is giving feedback on the results of this cocktail. So I give you an example. If a company is going to an economical mission, Amsterdam-based company, going to an economical mission to Hong Kong, if it's putting a job post of an APAC sales manager, if it's opening a new subsidiary in Hong Kong, probably it will start business over there. So a corporate banker would be interesting, like to know this data or those signals in order to sell them a corporate loan or give them a credit line of et cetera, et cetera. So it's not only about the base data, what you say, that we generated through a bot of et cetera, it's the signal, it's translated into signals, and then it's influencing the results, and the customer is giving feedback on that. And basically, if it's a bad result, it's not true if the corporate banker is calling that company and says, machine, this was not true. He gives a negative feedback, and this goes also back in the algorithm. He gets more of the good and less of the bad.
Great. Thanks very much. Yeah, that was really interesting. Thanks, Jean-Philippe.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to call up... Great. Next, I'd like to introduce Peter Lauchens, CTO and co-founder of Private AI. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you. Cool. Thanks, everyone, for coming today. So today I'd like to talk about, that's better. Today I'd like to talk about preserving privacy in NLP applications. So what about NLP? I guess the main concern for privacy with respect to NLP applications is the presence of personally identifiable information in the data that passes through these models, both training and inference time. So of course this covers things like direct identifiers like names, phone numbers, or burgerservice-nummer, which like basically directly identifies someone. So you, like all of that stuff is off limits. But it's important to note that personal data is broader than what you think. So this is a definition from the GDPR. Basically, any piece of information that can identify someone is considered as PI. So it's important to note that things like political beliefs and sexual orientation are all actually considered PI. And as an example of what can go wrong, this is an article from last year about this Korean company called Scatterlab that built a chatbot based on all the conversation history of the users of their platform. So basically, this was a dating website, so they trained a chatbot on all the conversation history of people on that platform. And basically, this chatbot, when they put it into production, started spinning all of this sensitive information that had been trained on out at inference time. And it's important to note no one did anything malicious here. It's not like this model was hacked or something. This just naturally occurred when it was put into production. So that being said, what can you do about it? There's a number of approaches which you can use to like preserve privacy when you're building things like chatbots, but also sentiment analysis models. A popular technique, or one that's, I think, quite well known, is known as differential privacy. I won't talk about the definition here, but basically, this involves, it's usually done by injecting noise into the training process so that like no piece of information could be basically tracked back to an individual. And it has a pretty strong mathematical guarantee behind it. So you can be reasonably sure that it works. But in terms of drawbacks, it does have a number. Like probably the key one, in my opinion, is that it's basically like hitting a model with a sledgehammer. So it usually induces a pretty large loss in accuracy. And it usually requires privacy expertise to implement, which is very, very difficult to find when it comes to machine learning applications at the moment. And I think something that's also often overlooked is that, especially in things like insurance or banking or healthcare use cases, it's hard to convince non-technical stakeholders that this actually works. Like you're saying, look, I've got my big black box, this thing I've tacked onto it, don't worry, like it preserves privacy, like nothing's going to go wrong. That, at least in our experience, is a very difficult conversation to be having. So another approach you might look at is synthetic data. So basically, you can see what this looks like here. So on the left, we have an email, and on the right side, a synthetic version that is somewhat similar. The beauty of this approach is that there's no added complexity to your own machine learning system. So this is entirely done on the training data, and therefore, like you're not adding any complexity to your already, I'm assuming, quite complicated systems. And it can also be used as a form of data augmentation. But similar to differential privacy, it usually requires privacy expertise to implement. And whilst maybe not to the same degree, does also suffer from the same problem that it's hard to convince non-technical stakeholders that this actually works. And of course, controlling the output distribution to make sure it actually really mimics all the nuances in the source data can be quite difficult. The solution that we're big fans of and that we work on at Private AI is basically de-identification or redaction. So you can see what it looks like here. So this email, basically all the sensitive information is replaced with markers. So the cool thing is that the PI is usually not important for the application at hand. So usually this works quite well. So for example, figuring out what this email is about, you don't actually need to know the personal information. It's also inherently explainable. You can show this to any non-technical data custodian and they can check it themselves, okay, human in the loop if they would like. And similar to synthetic data, there's no need to change your own machine learning systems. Doing this properly, though, can be tough, like especially in different languages, and it can also sometimes degrade accuracy in any downstream applications that you might have. Yeah, I guess on our system, like doing different languages can be pretty tough. So we do 50 entities, 42 languages. That's over 2,000 different combinations to optimize for. Our system also runs on premise, so your data never leaves your own computing environments. And yeah, we process in the order of about 4.5 billion requests per month. So it's definitely built for scale, I would say. It's important to note as well that anonymization is covered in the GDPR. You'll notice I'm using these terms somewhat interchangeably, but there are some differences. And if you're interested, there's a blog on our website where we describe the difference. But basically, the point I want to make here is that for this to like the GDPR is a bit vague, but it is clear that whatever system is built needs to be very, very good at finding PI. So something like a rule-based system built on top of regexes, perhaps, does not cut it in terms of compliance. Another thing we're working on, sorry, my last 15 seconds, we're also working on targeted synthetic data generation. So this is basically where we're generating just the bits that need to be generated so that data looks and feels like the original. And yeah, I guess that's my talk. So come visit us in Startup City if you're interested. If you're looking to get coffee in a place where there's never ever a line, that's like right near the end where we are. So yeah, just a tip we've noticed. So yeah, thanks very much for coming in. Great to speak.
Thanks, Peter. Such a relevant area, really. I know the projects I do, privacy is such a central part of pretty much every one of them. Do we have some questions for Peter? We've got the mic in the back. Go ahead and raise your hands, and we'll come around. I'll start off maybe with a question. Peter, do you see a big difference in your client base inside of the EU or outside?
Yeah, great question. I think it's more that in the EU, people are a lot more aware of privacy. It's starting to become a very big topic today, and I think the EU is definitely leading there. But in terms of the distribution, not really. We deal in a number of sectors, like, we have some companies in the finance sector. We also deal a lot with speech transcription providers.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I understand too, recently I've heard there's a lot, you hear a lot about privacy in the EU, and of course in the US more and more with the AI Bill of Rights and such. But I understand also in Southeast Asia, Singapore and such, they also have some pretty stringent regulations that maybe we don't hear about so much.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. So a key thing to note about the GDPR is it actually covers data subjects. It's not actually limited to the bounds of the EU. Mm-hmm. So for example, a US company, if they deal with EU citizens' data, like they still actually need to comply. And the thing is, the GDPR is not alone anymore. There's a whole bunch of legislation, such as the CPRA, also Quebec in Canada. We're from Toronto, by the way. There's all these different legislations, and they all deal with data subjects. So, at least strictly speaking, you need to comply with all of them.
Okay. Great. Question in the back.
What problem are you solving, actually? What is exactly the problem, and what solution are you providing?
So basically, we build redaction software. So it has a number of use cases. I mean, chatbots, of course, that constitutes a large part of our customer base. We also deal a lot with speech transcription providers, so providing redaction there for their model training.
Okay. But in one word, you don't have what is the problem you are solving now, but you are providing a lot of solutions.
Yeah, so basically privacy and AI. So when you're building a chatbot, for example, using customer data without doing any privacy mitigation can be quite tough.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
I think we have time for one quick question. And there's someone behind you, I think. We're in the very last row.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, I had one question about your platform. You mentioned you also run it on-premise at customers. Do you have any specific hardware requirements? For example, do you need the GPU or?
Yeah, great question. So we've spent a lot of time optimizing our system so it can run on CPU, can even run on Apple laptops with the new M1 and M2 CPUs.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great point. Building these things, getting them to a required level of accuracy, but also to be able to process terabytes of data at scale without costing however much body parts. Yeah, that can be tough.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Peter.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Patrick van Oosta, who is the Chief Commercial Officer of Predictive Layer. Welcome, Patrick.
Thank you. Right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Patrick van Oosta. I'm the CCO at Predictive Layer. We're an exciting Swiss-based player in the predictive AI space. I have a lot to get through in my allotted 7 minutes, so I'm going to talk pretty fast. Of course, the presentation can be made available to anyone who wants to take a closer look, and we're happy to welcome you in our stand at the Startup Hall. So, PL was founded in 2015, so in the strictest sense of the word, we're just on the outside of the startup curve. Where I'd say we're startup to scale up. Founded by a group of AI experts and entrepreneurs who developed an innovative time series-based set of algorithms, which they named Genius Core. The following 2 years were spent releasing the initial 2 products, Genius Energy and Genius Forecaster, and we'll get into that a little bit later. And then followed the year after that by the dynamic pricing engine. And the rest of the time we have been focused on growth and international development. All of these tools have been and continue to be the basis for the company's growth today. We are self-funded and profitable since day one. Our mission statement is simple. We provide our enterprise clients with intelligent and explainable forecasts, and we make strategic recommendations around supply and demand. Using our proprietary AI solutions, we accompany our clients from the definition of the business problem all the way to the delivery of our solutions into their business operations, where the value is ultimately provided by optimizing the processes in scope. Quick overview of some of our existing key clients across a variety of industry verticals, just to highlight the flexibility and the versatility of our solutions. For us, the target markets are these: enterprise, financial, and energy, with a current estimated size as well as our projection on the expected growth of these markets for the next 3 to 5 years. So, in essence, our target area is huge. It's not moving. Okay, so back, enterprise markets, here we were. Moving on. So if we look at the solutions provided by Predictive Layer, they can be grouped into 2 primary buckets. First one being energy and finance, where our engine is used to create trading and hedging strategies. In the energy sector, our clients use our solutions to help them across the entire chain, whether they are a producer, a wholesale consumer, a distributor, a network manager, or a trader. And in use cases such as day-ahead trading, intraday trading, and imbalance management, all things which will be familiar to those of you who work in the energy sector. The second bucket has a much wider application range. There we focus on the enterprise at large. Our solutions are used across a variety of verticals to forecast key management KPIs, such as revenue, demand forecast, supply forecast, automated price generation, cost management, margin optimization, and so on. Predictive Layer has developed additional and unique expertise on both demand and supply forecasting, as well as on the pricing and revenue management front. If we take that application and then slice it up across a variety of industries, then we can see some examples here. For instance, manufacturing might be looking for demand forecasting or process optimization. Dynamic pricing, on the other hand, might be a key value add to the travel and hospitality sector. And then retail, as another example, would be looking for predictive inventory management combined with demand forecasting and so on. Presenting that information in a way that makes sense to the client is a key component of any good AI tool. This screen is just one example of how our Genius Pricer solution presents some of the relevant analytics to the client. Each of these objects or blocks can be moved or configured as needed. These three differentiators, we feel, are essential to our successful delivery. AI predictions are worthless if they are less accurate than the proverbial coin toss. So accuracy is a key KPI. Explainability is crucial for our clients to understand what is behind the recommendations that we are making. And we provide you with the tools to look inside what might otherwise be a black box. The configurability, lastly, ensures that you and we can generate the output precisely according to your needs and requirements. So, going into explainability, this is one way where we provide insight into the black box. This shows each of the elements and data points that we have taken into consideration for a forecast, prediction, or recommendation, whether they add to the bullish or bearish sentiment, and what weight each of them has been ascribed. And each of these blocks, again, can be clicked on, drilled into, and understood. All of this results in this typical impact that we have delivered to some of our existing customers, whether it be in energy and finance or on the enterprise side. For instance, we have enterprise clients who use our engine to auto-generate thousands of quotations per month using our recommendation and using them worldwide. We also extend our flexibility into our business model. We work with the client to determine the best and most equitable compensation model for the value we provide, whether that is clear profit sharing or whether it is a baseline subscription plus a bonus-malus performance fee. In other words, the client only pays if we provide value. And that was it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Patrick. Sounds like you guys are doing quite a bit. Shall I open it up to questions? Maybe I'll start it off while you guys are preparing. Do you have some key, I'm sure you're integrating with all sorts of systems, ERP systems, AI systems. Could you tell us a bit about those integrations?
Yes, absolutely. So we can, it all depends on which type of solution we provide, but we expect to integrate with systems such as ERPs, CRMs, CSMs, and so on. And we are system agnostic in that regard. Some of our larger clients also have their own BI solutions already in place and their own representation solutions, and then we just feed them raw data. We can host on their hardware if they so desire, or we can host it for them and provide it in an online model.
Okay, nice. Question in the back.
How much time is needed to set up the system at the client?
How long is a piece of string? I can give you a typical broad timeline. So from first contact, where we sit down with the client and we do a definition of the problem, usually we recommend doing a pilot. The setup of that pilot takes about 3 months, depending on data size, data complexity, and problem complexity, but let's say 3 months. During that 3 months, we get all of the client's relevant data, as well as a whole bunch of exogenous data that we use to enrich our models. And then we start doing a back testing. So we look at what happened we take the client's data of what happened, for instance, in the last 6 months, and we compare that to what our predictions would have been for the last 6 months until we reach a close and intelligible and explainable approximation. And then we flip the switch and we start predicting into the future. A typical pilot there again lasts between 3 and 6 months, after which we then, assuming we reach our KPIs that we mutually agreed on, then we switch to production. So the average project, soup to nuts, is between 6 and 9 months to move into full production.
Great. Thanks so much, Patrick.
You're very welcome.
Okay. Now I'd like to welcome Melissa Wijngaarden, good Dutch name, who is the co-founder of Impact Bytes. Welcome, Melissa.
So I'm Melissa, and I used to be a huge shopaholic. I used to buy as many clothes as I could for as cheap as possible. But then I watched the documentary, The True Cost, and I discovered that was something I was doing for fun. I was actually exploiting people and harming the planet. But luckily, there are many brands out there who make beautiful items in a fair and sustainable way. But these brands are often small, and it takes effort to find them. So together with my sister Marcella and our good friend Noor, we decided to do something about this. So we started Project CC. Project CC is a search engine for fair and sustainable fashion, and the goal is to make it super easy and fun to find fashion that matches both your style and your values. So in the past 3 years, we helped over 1 million people find sustainable alternatives. But it's not the reason why I'm here today. Because while we were scaling Project CC, we were recognized by key industry players as a leading source for data on sustainability in the fashion industry. And actually, that's no wonder, because as a team, data is what we're best at. My sister Marcella, she has a PhD in computational astrophysics. She did her research project at the Flatiron Institute in New York, and she's the reason we have scalable tech in-house. And then there's Noor. Noor also has a background in physics, and she's been internationally recognized as an expert in sustainable fashion, with publications in multiple major newspapers. She even gave a TED Talk about it. And then there's me, the shopaholic. I used to work as a lead data analyst at a fintech startup. So what we discovered was that big players in the fashion industry actually do want to promote more sustainable products, but they lack easy access to sustainability credentials on a product level. Because each brand has its own level of data availability and transparency. Like, for example, a certificate. It's often given on a brand level, and as a multi-brand player, it's very hard to distinguish which certificate applies to which products. Even brands themselves often don't have this information readily available. So this is where Impact Bytes comes in. With Impact Bytes, we're building the web's leading product sustainability data provider, a plug-and-play solution that brands can easily connect with. So we're not an impact measurement company, but we verify and aggregate impact data. So this is both publicly available data, but also we access private data, like, for example, certification reports, audit reports, and supply chain contracts. In this way, we make it easy for multi-brand players to access and verify sustainability credentials on a product level. So for data users, like, for example, the search tools or multi-brand e-commerce players, we help them to mitigate the risk of lawsuits because they can't back up their sustainability claims. On the other side, for brands, we help them increase the revenue because their products are now being shown to a larger audience. And the cool thing is, the more data users we have, the more attractive we become for brands. And the more brands we have, the more attractive we are for data users. So it's a pure network play. So let me show you how we solved the problem for Ecosia. Ecosia is a sustainable search engine with over 15 million searches per month. They were looking to build a shopping tool and wanted to do sustainable product recommendations. So internally, they decided on a definition for sustainability. They decided what materials or certificates needed to apply. But then, how did they find those products? This is where Impact Bytes comes in. They could directly connect with our API and find over tens of thousands of products that matched with their level of sustainability. Also, they could directly monetize on this using our in-house developed affiliate marketing technology. So whenever a sale leads, or whenever a recommendation leads to a sale, they automatically earn a commission on this. We launched our beta product over the summer, and we already have over 200 brands onboarded, resulting in more than 50,000 products in our data stream. Also, through our publisher partners, we have a reach of over 1 million monthly visitors. We also seen inbound interest from key industry players. With some of them, we'll be united in a research project that's funded by the German government. With the EU cracking down on unbacked sustainability claims, and at the same time, consumer demand for ethically produced products growing, the time to act is now. There is no unified data source where multi-brand players can easily access to verify and access product-level sustainability credentials. So with Impact Bytes, we're building a solution for a problem that's becoming more and more pressing. We look forward for you to join us on our journey.
Great, thanks very much, Melissa.
Thanks.
Let me go ahead and open it up for questions. So we come with the mic. We've got the first one back. OK, we've got several.
Congratulations. Do you raise and do you have revenue already?
Yes, yeah. We are currently raising our pre-seed rounds, and we have revenue, like we have multiple revenue streams. The major ones are SaaS model, so it's from two sides, both the data users as the brand partners. We charge a monthly fee, and then we also charge on commission.
And what's the MRR?
Sorry?
What's the monthly recurrent revenue?
We prefer to not share it openly, but we can talk afterwards.
You have to wait for the IPO for that one, right?
You can reach out. We're at 836.
I have a question. There's quite a number of startups working in this really important area, right? Trying to help make the choice on sustainable choices in the fashion industry. And I know some of them are struggling with data, getting the right data in order to measure this. So how is it that you're getting access to all this data in order to be able to provide this information, for instance, on the logistic tour, on what sort of materials are there, the life cycle? So where do you get your data from?
Yeah, so we collaborate with brands to gather that data. So our onboarding process, it consists of 2 steps, and the first part consists of an impact analysis. So we ask the brands a lot of questions, and then they fill in this data, but also they provide us with proof to show like what they know about the supply chains. So this can be contract data, but also certificates, reports. And the cool thing about this is that we don't share necessarily this data itself, but we share the conclusions we take from it. So because of that, brands are very happy to share that information because they want us to know what they're actually doing. But on the other hand, we keep the sensitive information, we keep it privately. And in that way, we encourage them to openly share their data.
Are you also doing gap analysis, showing them where they should be actually having more data to give a more impactful analysis?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's a lot of brands who approach us and they're like, I'm a sustainable brand. And then you start asking the questions and you actually identify a lot of gaps. So yeah, we do that.
My name is Thomas. First of all, thanks on behalf of all the guys who now have a much easier choice to convince their girlfriends and wives to do sustainable shopping without getting into troubles.
It's also for guys.
No, rightfully so. My suit is sourced that way, but I had to go to a lot of effort to find it. But my second question is like the amount the funding question was already raised. A friend of mine is a female founder, is looking for startups to invest in, but I'm curious, what are your most important struggles to get funding? Because that's the main thing for female founder startups often, to actually get to the funding stage.
Well, I think what we noticed, because like this isn't our first funding round, but what we noticed is that there is like a bit of a carrot stick. So you go to investors and you get the feedback like you need more traction. They give specific amounts that you need to reach. Then you reach that amount of traction, and then there's another thing happening. So it's not that they directly say like, nah, not good enough, or I'm not interested. It's always like you running behind this carrot stick. And I think that's something that can be improved, because it's very much data-based as well. Like if you say this, then you should stick to it. And if it's another reason, you should say the other reason.
Okay. I think we have time for one more short question. I think there's a hand up in the front.
Yeah, so so the question is if we are doing something with blockchain. We investigated it, but what we noticed is that even with blockchain, it's still people filling in data. And a big problem in the fashion industry is that people say they do something, and then they don't. So I don't think you necessarily solve that problem with blockchain, although there is a few initiatives who are really trying to better verify that aspect. So yeah.
Thanks so much, Melissa. It's very, very interesting. Yeah.
Thanks. I left the clicker here.
Okay, thanks. Good job. Great. Next, I'd like to introduce to you Marnix van den Broek, and Marnix is head of product by Bundles and Batches. Welcome.
Hi, thanks. Welcome, everybody. My name is, as you can see, Marnix van den Broek from Bundles and Batches. We're a data engineering startup, and we're actually working on a pretty big ambition and vision. We want to enable global scale data collaborations. And that starts actually with a little bit of context. We set out to push the next frontier in human knowledge development, so that's a large ambition. And if you think about how humans gather knowledge, how you learn insights, and how you pass them on to your siblings or to other human beings, this started, of course, tens of thousands of years ago when human beings started learning language, starting using symbols to actually communicate something to each other, but we have no idea, at least some historians, of course, have an idea of what this is, but if I see this, I have no idea what to make of it. I completely lack the context to understand what any of this means. Human development has gone through a lot of stages, from learning how to write, from book printing, to computing, to data, and transformations, and data gathering, and machine learning that we're talking about in this summit, and it's moving really fast, but there's one frontier that is not being pushed yet, and we're looking to do that. And this starts with the question, actually, and that's why doesn't data collaboration scale? Like software collaborations, they scale. You can run a project from a single person to a project where tens of thousands or maybe even more people contribute. Same thing is true on the machine learning side, which is, of course, which is also engineering, IT engineering heavy. It doesn't really work for data pipelines. If you need to do the data pre-processing for a certain application, it hardly scales beyond the size of a large team, unless companies put extraordinary effort into it, or they have an extraordinary culture. I mean, it's probably not true for the Googles and Facebook of this world that it doesn't scale beyond the team, but they have extraordinary cultures. You can't reproduce that easily inside of other enterprises. And this is really odd, because this is, we all know Moore's law, and computing scales, like it doubles every year and a half, more or less, but data collaboration scales are lagging behind. And we've been thinking about this a lot, and we think that this is caused by the fact that there is no way to easily capture data understanding. Data analysts and most data professionals, and I'm sure most of the people in this audience will recognize this. When you start working with data, the first activity is contextualizing the data, understanding what's in there, what does it represent, which subject is it about, and which assumptions were made while gathering the data. And usually the answers are complex, and they're not even the same for every record in your data set, because some are older than others, and systems that create and gather the data, they evolve. And we've no way to embed this meaning with data itself. So this means that also if you want to reuse data transformations, and I'm really talking about analytical data transformations, there's no convenient way to share those. And this is a missing foundation that we're set out to solve. We also think that this is the reason that there is no go-to place yet for collaborational and analytical data sets. And this idea is not new. It's not for lack of trying that there is no one, so no such place exists, because it's been tried from about 2010 onwards. There have been a lot of initiatives who identified this as something that's missing in the market. There's no GitHub for data, there's no YouTube for data, no place to go to as an organization to publish and share your data. What I was just explaining about how we're not able to bind the context that we need to understand and process data correctly to the data itself, the fact that that's missing, we think that that's the main cause why this has not taken shape yet. And everybody knows it's going to be there one day, so how do we get there? Well, we think that to get there, we need to be able to bind context to data. And how does this look? I mean, I've been talking about a very big ambition, so I'm going to make it really concrete and small now. But say you have a small data set, and you've got, you know what's in there. You've got some column names that are really concisely trying to describe what's in there, but to know what it is and work with it, if you'd be able to put that into a context object and share that with other people or work together on those kind of definitions, almost like a rich data type, we'd be already one step ahead. And if then we'd also be able to define transformations based on the context of the inputs and the outputs, we'd actually be able to simply compose our data pipelines using that kind of logic, that we know there is a data transformation, it's got a certain context that goes in, or rich data types that go in, and the data type that go out. It sounds like something pretty basic. I mean, that's how you program, right? But we don't have this for data records. So that's what we're working on with bundles and batches to get to this stage of global scale data collaboration. We're soon going to have a private preview of one of the products that we're working on, because we're doing this in a 2-product track, which actually ends up at the same destination. I don't know how many of you are aware of ETL pipelines. That's how engineers often talk about data processing pipelines. We need all the components. It's extract data, transform it, load it to somewhere else, maybe do another transformation afterwards. We need all the components, extract and load. Doing that in a composable way is more or less becoming a solved problem, but it's still a nascent market. So we're developing a product, and we already have a prototype that we can demonstrate at our booth, and we'll be entering a private preview or for users that want early access in 2 or 3 months. On the other hand, we're working on the large ambition in something that we now call the Context Development Kit, which is really in the research and development stage, and we're working on the first prototypes, but working on something foundational as this is, sometimes it's even hard to talk about what it is going to be exactly, and we really need to iterate towards the point that it is mature enough to become the modular transform in our composable ETL platform. So that's what we're about. If you want to know more, feel free to visit at our booth or sign up for the private preview, and I'm always looking forward to share my enthusiasm with anyone who's interested from any kind of background. Thank you.
Thanks, Marnix. Go ahead and open up to questions for anyone. We've got one already in the front.
This sounds like a public good as well. Is there an industry standard coming up? What's your take? You're a for-profit company. You seem to be doing something like industry standard.
Yeah, standardization could be one way to achieve this, but we think since something foundational is missing, that this needs to be built first. It does sound like a public good. We're also envisioning this to do this in an open source way at a strategic point in time, simply because if it's something foundational, it only becomes a standard if it's adopted widely. So you should actually do that with a larger community. More questions?
And Marcus, where are you based?
The Hague.
In The
So
Hague.
pretty close
Okay.
to Amsterdam, actually.
Okay.
So it was really nice to have a summit of this size almost around the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, if there's no more questions, then thank you again.
Thank you.
Great. And I'd like to welcome now Meralda Wu, who is the co-founder and CEO of Melio. Welcome. And I've got a clicker for you here. Good to have you here.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Meralda, the co-founder and CEO of Melio AI. We're a team of engineers revolutionizing the way that data science and machine learning are done today. For those of you who have been reading MLOps papers, you might be familiar with these statistics. 11 people, $95,000, and 85%. Currently, it takes 11 people to maintain one ML pipeline from beginning to end, and that translates to $95,000 for one model to be deployed. And what's worse is that 85% of these projects actually don't deliver any value. And that is something that you might say, oh, well, the 15% that do produce tremendous value, right? That's why we're all at the super fancy AI conference, and that's true. But the reality is that the data science journey takes too long, costs too much, and because of the experimental nature, it doesn't guarantee a positive outcome. And that means data science is a luxury for a lot of companies, especially small companies, to embark on. And the big companies often struggle and fight with each other on which use case to prioritize. As an AI consultancy, we get paid by our big enterprise clients to deliver and fulfill these data science use cases. And that's great for us because it gives us lots of money. But the problem is when SMEs approach us with very similar use cases, we have to turn them away because they don't have the capital to support that. And that's so demoralizing for a startup like us because we're an SME and we always want to help other SMEs. So we built Highwind. We built Highwind so that we can help organizations to iterate through different use cases so they can get to the one that is valuable for them very quickly. We're not an AutoML tool, and we're not another MLOps tool. We're actually an AI marketplace for data scientists to buy and sell their models. And here's how it works. Pretend that you have Amanda. She is a data analyst working at an insurtech startup. She's tasked by her boss to build this credit scoring model. And she thought, credit scoring has been done 1 million times already. Why do I have to start from the beginning? And she's right. Why? She logs onto Highwind, look for her use case, credit scoring, look for her industry, insurance, and look for her geographical location, the UK. And she gets presented a bunch of different use cases. She's not sure which one is actually the best for her, so she decides to benchmark them against her own data set. She can upload her data, train all 3 different use cases built by other data scientists, get a bunch of metrics back that tells her this model is faster, this model is cheaper, and this model is more accurate. She can make the most intelligent choice for her own use case based on our metrics. At this point, she can decide that she'll just buy the model, subscribe to the API, and move on to her next use case. All life is good. But we also know that with a lot of these data science projects, customizations are required. So at this point, you can decide to buy the model and build on top of it as well. Or Amanda's thinking, I'm actually just super duper busy. I don't have time to deal with any of this. She can also buy the model and then hire the data science expert who built the specific model and customize it for her on her hourly charge. So Highwind helps Amanda to go from having an idea to having a deployed use case in a very, very short amount of time. And she knows it's guaranteed for the use case that she is working on. These are just a couple of screenshots from our platform. And if you're interested, you can come to the Startup City to visit us for a demo. But let's talk about how we help people make money and how we help ourselves make money. So Highwind is a marketplace built on top of a machine learning platform. That means we have 3 different revenue streams. The first 2 are commission-based. So data scientists upload their model. They decide that it's going to cost $500 for someone to buy. When someone buys it, we take a platform fee. If nobody buys it, unfortunately, we don't get a fee, but it doesn't cost data scientists anything. Same for commissions. If people want to procure their service, we also take a platform fee. And the last one is probably what the most people care about, is the subscription fees. For companies who don't actually want to maintain and host their own models, they can subscribe to the API, $49 a month, or whatever amount that the data scientists charge, and they can move on to the next use case. Because of the unique value proposition we've carved out for ourselves, asset, service, and compute, we are in this very unique competition landscape with the rest of the ML ecosystem. We call ourselves something like a Fiverr plus an AWS marketplace plus Hugging Face. So we help data scientists who are freelancing train and host their models on our marketplace and expose that to the rest of the world to buy and to use. And that all sounds super great, but how do you bootstrap a two-sided marketplace? We're partnering with players who are already, or sellers who already have buyers on hand. So the first segment that we have is AI consulting company, because we started as an AI consulting company, and we know every single AI consulting company out there wants to productize their service. So we help them repackage the use case they have already built, put it into a reusable format, put it onto Highwind, and then next time when I have a similar client who comes for a similar use case, they can fast-track their delivery and get a bigger profit margin. The next segment we have is AI startup. A lot of these AI startups are already building very highly specialized machine learning models that you don't want to rebuild again, right? So we partner with these AI startups to help them go to market quicker and expose them to a wider audience. The last partner we have is a competition platform. They're one of the biggest competition platforms in the world. They already have 50 data scientists on their platform, and they already have 50 data scientists on their platform, and there are already a lot of corporate sponsors who are sponsoring these different type of use cases for the data scientists to compete in. It's a huge market, and that's why we're all here, because AI is going to be great. But we are a team who, 10 engineers, we bootstrap completely. We've been running an MLOps startup for the past 3.5 years, and we have 15 clients in 3 different continents. So we have the skills and experience to bring Highwind to life. For the past couple of months, we have built the MVP, and we are currently now raising our pre-seed round. Where we're going is that we're going to onboard more models. Sorry, I'm running out of time, but you can come chat to us in the Startup City. But ultimately, right now, we are raising our pre-seed round at $1 million with $10 million valuation cap. And if you're a data scientist who wants to share your model with the rest of the world and start earning today, come chat to us. Our engineers will onboard you. If you're a company who wants to make use of AI, but you're not sure, we'll match you to one of our AI startups that we have on our platform. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks very much, Meralda. Are there questions from the audience? Okay, up here in the front. We're coming at you with a mic. It'll be there in 3 seconds.
Thank you for a great presentation. I feel very greedy right now because I'm a data scientist and I want to, to send all my models there. I'm just wondering, do you also have some kind of criteria for the models? And it's not only application domain, but also some, special formatting of these models, because it can be just Jupyter Notebook, I guess. It can be something like more or less standard, right?
Yeah, so right now we're working with a lot of data scientists to find out the easiest way for them. We currently accept Docker containers, but we're helping the data scientists convert their Jupyter Notebook into a reusable pipeline, and we're developing an SDK for that.
Okay, there's either a question, okay.
Thank you for your interesting presentation. I got one question. How big is the chance of actually finding a model you're looking for? Because say you are looking for a credit model, like the features, the input features that you have at your disposal, they need to line up with the trained model.
Yeah, so that's why we're introducing a technique called the feature toggling. So for example, this model accepts 10 features and you only have 8, then you switch off 2, and then you can still use the model. It is something that's coming next year though. It is something that we're still in development. But that's why we also add the customization layer. So for example, you see that, this model is very close to what I need, but not exactly. Then you can contact the data scientist. You buy the model first, contact the data scientist to do the customization for you.
Great, thanks.
Question here, yep.
Hi, I have a question about the benchmarking step that you mentioned in the slide. And you made it sound very easy. You made it sound like I just upload my data and then automatically I find these models and I can see the performance. However, I would argue a lot of the factor in the performance of a model is actually before that, right? Like the feature extraction and feature engineering. So yeah, how much effort is it actually, and how much of a role does that play?
Yeah, that's why even though I keep saying model, we actually upload an entire use case. That includes the data sets, the feature engineering portion, and the model training portion. So that's why we help data scientists construct the whole thing into a pipeline. So we're actually benchmarking the feature engineering portion in terms of the training time as well as the computing cost with the model training portion. Hope that answers your question. And no, it is not easy. It cost my engineers heart, sweat, and tears to develop that feature.
Great, thanks.
Great. Thanks very much. And just to clarify at the end, I see your company name here is Melio, but can you just say a word about that?
Yeah, so the company name is called Melio. We started as an MLOps startup, but then we're developing this product, and it's called Highwind. So Melio.ai is our company website. Highwind.ai is the platform website.
Great. Thank you so much. Really interesting.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay, now I'd like to introduce Florence Gressner, is that right? Who is the co-founder of Neurocat. Welcome, Florence.
Hey guys, hi. Good afternoon. Obviously, I'm not Florence. So Florence couldn't make it for a couple of personal reasons, so that's why I'm replacing him here. Cool. So what I would like to talk about today is how we at Neurocat are building a product to eliminate failures of AI systems. Okay, so oh yeah, there it goes. So in a nutshell, we are a Berlin-based startup founded in 2018 with 38 full-time employees. 38 full-time employees because we are consulting firm at first, but now we are becoming more and more product-oriented company. So our vision with which our founder started was to unleash the full potential of AI systems by helping ML pioneers detect and mitigate risks at an early stage of product development. So as I said, we are a consulting firm when we started out, and we built out our expertise in AI quality. That's why we initiated and co-authored Germany's first standards on machine learning robustness, and also we extended the state-of-art robustness testing methods to our publications and patent applications. On top of that, we are a domain-specific company, which is for us, it's automotive company. We have worked with 20 plus clients on helping them improve their models through customized test strategies. So these are the partners, as you can see, which extends from automotive companies to standardization agencies to certification companies. So why do we have to do this? There are already methods, systems, and approaches to test for quality, right? So why we wanted to do this further was because we saw how EU on a European Commission level, they were thinking about classifying the systems and then testing these systems accordingly to ensure that they do not fall foul of European values. So this was the motivation with which we started, and then obviously, as you might have read within the regulations, it talks about risk assessment, it talks about conformity assessments, but it doesn't talk about like how to do this and how to apply this in practice. Whereas if you go on to a domain level regulations, it becomes fortunately like very clear. There are on an automotive level, there are regulations being defined on a system level for safety and assurance, and on a component level for perception. There are things have been published, things are in development, and there are still many more voids to fill. But as you can see, all these regulations are aimed towards ensuring that the systems are safe and ensuring that there is necessary validation and verification and evidence that these systems are going to be safe on deployment. So this is the problem domain which we are aiming to solve. So applying this context to automotive domain, as we all know that it's very easy for automotive systems to get confused because the data is never enough, right? That's why we call it as a long tail problem in automotive or machine learning in general, where there will be a data point for which your models are going to fail. And these are actually very realistic, and these are real pictures for which when the system encountered these things, obviously the system was confused because the systems do not have the intuition which humans have yet. So what we do to solve this problem is helping the ML engineers do edge case discovery. The way we do this is by exposing the models to noise. What we call as noise is essentially trying to confuse the system's signal and then try to see for what kind of a noise does your systems fail. And further, we help in mitigating by giving a clarity on what is the realistic scenario of this edge case occurring. Because there is going to be an edge case, that's a given, but how realistic it is, how does it impact your model's performance, or how does it impact your model's confidence is key to understand what are the potential failure modes your systems might have. Yeah. Finally, what we also do is we enable them to understand this at a very early stage with an intention to ensure that there are very low downstream costs as an impact. So we help them save costs at a very early stage. So how we do this is by two methods. One, it's a very easy to use CLI platform, which you can plug it into your existing MLOps, and we come in at the model validation phase. So once you've developed your model, trained your model, tested your model, you want to validate how your model is performing for these unseen cases. So we come in there, and since we enable you to also automate these testing. All you have to do is a one-time setup through our web portal where you create a test pipeline, give a bit of meta information about your use case, what is your failure threshold, and what kind of a conformity assessments you are trying to adhere to. And then next comes the place where the entire magic of 8-Kit happens, which is selecting the test parameters. Here you get an out-of-the-box perception noises and environmental noises, and further it also gives you an opportunity to fine-tune these noises to create as narrow edge case as possible. It all depends on your appetite to stress your model. So once you do this, the final section is where you get a very clear, insightful overview both for a developer to understand what aspect of their model and what aspect of their data distribution led to a failure or misclassification or misdetection, and for a manager to understand what is the likely scenario of this occurrence and how can one overcome these kind of potential failures. So a case study in action, we had an OEM in Germany who had developed a pedestrian detection model, and they had tested, trained their model, but they had to provide statistical evidence to their internal safety team that this is X% robust, and these are the potential failure modes, and this is how the system might overcome these kind of failure modes. So they wanted to demonstrate this. So this is where 8-Kit came into the picture for them. We helped them test their models, derive these evidences, establish the argumentation, both for internal quality assessments and external conformity assessments. So this is, the product itself is a bit, it takes time for me to explain, so I'll be happy to take any questions which you guys might have right now, and also, if possible, go deeper into discussion, understand your specific use cases and how you test them. Happy to talk to you after the talk here at our booth near the Black Box exhibition. Thank you.
Great. Hey, thanks very much, Madhusudan. I'm guessing you're based sort of in the Stuttgart or region?
We are based in Berlin.
Okay.
So it so happened that one of our customers moved their entire development center to Berlin, and we were out of Berlin, so we just stuck there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay,
and we are in a remote world, so things have been working out quite well for now. Maybe Stuttgart or Munich would be the potential location where we at least move.
Thinking of the car industries there, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Great.
yeah.
Any questions?
There's a question over here.
Maybe you mentioned in your talk, so sorry if I just didn't get that, but you mentioned these edge cases and you showed the example of images for self-driving cars, I guess. How do you identify these edge cases? Do you use your customers' data? Do you have your own data set? Or do you even generate the data sets with generative networks?
Okay, excellent question. So currently what we are doing is we are using customer data and then adding noise to it as a way of augmenting the data to test for these edge cases. So the way we will evolve our product is by having a data set which you can, based on your use case, you can query the data, the query the kind of data and the quantity of data you need, and then use this as a first layer of testing your model against model, and then on top of that layer our test methods, and then do further testing. So this will happen in our product, but we only see this happening in the first half of next year.
And have you thought about using generative networks? Like DALL-E 2, you could see generating these kind of images?
We can, but it's a gamification, right? But at the end of the day, in automotive, things work on a very sensor fusion based, where generative networks might not be a compute efficient solution. So they are looking for something which can help you generate evidence and then use it as an augmentation. So it could be a potential solution, but today we aren't using it yet.
Okay, thanks.
I have 41 seconds.
Wait, time for one more, sure. Just very briefly, do you see the next industry that's the most natural progression for you after automotive?
Yeah, we see biometric to be one of the industries where this kind of quality assessment is going to be called for. There are already works happening on an European level, and further healthcare obviously is a target industry, but that would be the third priority for us.
Okay. And if I swing by your booth, can I get a shirt like that from my daughter? Or
Sure.
Is that, okay.
Sure, yeah. Cool.
Thanks very much for coming.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. We have one more presentation before we break for lunch, and this is going to be the challenge for me because I'm going to introduce 3 people, and I practiced this ahead of time, so I should get it right. All with WinDeep Tech, so I enjoyed meeting them at the booth earlier today. I'd like to introduce Elia Corbin, the CEO, Anthony Saba, Managing Partner and CPO, and Rami Awetnadi, Head of International Business Development. Welcome to all.
Hi. Thank you.
Welcome.
Hello.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. So today we want to talk one of our product. So the company is called Win, What is Next? And we like to disrupt what is next. So we focused our product towards the financial industry and finance function. And we developed a product called Procreo. And now we want to see what's going to do. So the big challenge today for all organizations is to manage their profitability and create value in real time. So we infused the technology AI and ML to help the CFOs and to help the finance function to really have this tactical advantage to take decisions fast and see where they can find opportunities and create value. Today's CFOs face a lot of challenges. It's impossible for them to manage 5 major use cases at the same time, so they can get their profitability right and manage it towards the growth trajectory that they want. The first thing is, and the first problem that they have to solve is how they can allocate cost in real time. The second one is really to understand how they do the comparative analysis within all the group of their product, of their value chain, of their operation, and so on. And it's so difficult to find this information. The third thing, they don't have traceability along their value chain, how this value is created, and where they are making profit and where they are losing profit. And the most important, maybe for nowadays, is what we hear, in all the news and the Gartners and everything. So the predictive finance, how we can change this function to be forward-looking. The forecast of your sales, the forecast of your profitability, of your performance metrics, and so on. And what they need to do is always not to lose and find their break-even point. And they need to find the efficient pricing for every single product. So, to do so, they have to embrace new management principles. And the major principles is they have to be agile, they have to have a bottom line accountability towards their department, they have to have this swiftness to do dynamic response, and the most important, they have to be assisted by augmented analytics. This is where technology can emerge, technology can solve the problem, machine learning and AI can help this legacy function to become a futuristic one. So I want to ask Anthony, how $1 billion company with sheer volume of transaction can become agile and dynamic in profit management?
Elia, thank you for the question. It's really an interesting challenge. And we're here, guys, to really answer that. Okay, so we'll start by like 4, I would say, main strategies to do so. And the first one is by really deploying predictive models in order to quantify costs and performance metrics. So one of the major problems is the absence of actual data at the enterprise level. And we can use our models to really generate the data for you. And then following that, we use unsupervised learning to decompose the business into sub-businesses that are understandable. Right? And once you have this decomposition, what you can do is derive trends, recommendations, and opportunities. And finally, through root cause analysis assisted with AI, we can really understand the opportunity areas. And this is really useful in order to increase your profitability and your bottom line. So this is really something that you need to do across your supply chain. And it applies really on products, orders, suppliers, etc. If we can move to the... All right. The most important is that all this complex technology is packed in one really very nice user experience to allow you to access easy insights and quick impacts. And now I'll hand over to Rami.
Thank you, Anthony. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very delighted to see you today. And what my colleagues were briefing about our product is not a buzz. It was and still a wishful thinking to many CXOs, managers, because if you look at from the perspective of a citizen, not a consumer of the technology, nor a creator, just a citizen, every one of us needs some time on his own to see his family, his kids, and our technology saves a lot of time and money as well. We wish that we have more time to go into details on our solutions other than the predictive finance, which are continuous learning in the EdTech. We have a platform also powered by AI machine learning that deliver blended curriculum. And also, we help smart government through customizing solution. So we are present in Paris, London, and Dublin, and the Middle East. We are here until Saturday. We extended our trip to go back home because we believe that we want to meet all of you. We will try, okay? So to enjoy coffee in the city vibes tomorrow, please don't hesitate to reach us. And as Henry Ford said once, coming together is the beginning, right? Staying together is the progress, and working together is a success. We want to work with you guys. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Sylvia. Very impressed. 3 people, and you guys nailed it in 6 minutes. So obviously, a lot of practice. Very well prepared. Let me go ahead and open it up to the audience for questions that you may have. I know there's a lot of material, so it might be challenging to think what to really ask about. And while you're thinking, let me ask you kind of the same question I asked at the beginning, is are there some typical systems that you're already integrated with?
Sure thing. So mainly when you're, okay, so the challenge really is kind of like having the models, the AI models, and everything around AI. It's really complex technology, right? So not at least for us, but for the end user, it's complex, right? And if you want to bring that really to a usefulness, you need to first integrate with the current technology in terms of legacy platforms. And the most important is to channel it through a really appealing customer experience. So we do all of that. We already nailed the predictive finance function in terms of models. Our really models worked for a lot of transactions so far, like billions of transactions in billions of dollars, and they proved to be working. And now we're connecting with all the legacy systems, legacy ERPs, legacy POS systems, etc., and then delivering all this insight and recommendation through really Power BI and other ClickView and any dashboarding system, along with our own, of course, advanced systems or advanced dashboarding systems. So that's it, yeah.
Okay.
No more questions? Our solutions are very easy. Or you're very tired.
It's a lunch break. So.
And it's lunch break. So I think you'll be at your booth, and it's sort of against the plenary wall. It's the one over there. So yeah, You have an
happy to
opportunity to ask
discuss
more
and
questions
do
the
a
rest of the
live
day.
demo for everybody. Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
Thanks, guys.
Much appreciated.